Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Fire King Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post-structure deck Fire King Reloaded. This is the new, what is to be probably one of the higher tier decks in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Format. The Fire Kings were always a sort of powerhouse deck, taking advantage of the destruction power that the deck could use to special summon monsters onto the field with the Diabell Star Snake Eyes engine. It just adds to the firepower of the deck, so I figured I'd bring to you the combination of the two decks together. I'll also be having a budget deck profile for the Fire King structure decks on the channel, so look forward to it. But we're going for the more competitive build that you can make with the structure deck and some of the other support from Age of Overlord. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Fire King monsters, running 2 copies of the new Sacred Fire King Garunix. If your monster that was originally fire is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when the monster was destroyed, or hand, even if not. If this card is normal or special summon, you can destroy 1 Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster in your hand, deck, or face up on the field, except for Sacred Fire King Garunix. And if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's attack it had there until the end of this turn. You can go use this effect of Garunix once per turn, but it's another easy special summon option thanks to this boss monster also being able to increase attack to then swing over a good number of cards. So always have an option to summon this card back onto the field, whether it be from the hand or the graveyard, is definitely a useful boss monster tactic for the main deck. We don't really need the 2 though, because there's plenty of other ways to search and set up this card. For our other card, we're running the 1 copy of the original Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Once per turn during the next standby phase after this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it from the graveyard. If you do, destroy all other monsters on the field. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Fire King monster from your deck, except for Garunix, so giving you more options to then special summon multiple other monsters onto the field. And it can also help to set up your 2 level 8 monsters to overlay into your Garunix Eternity, Hyang of the Fire Kings, as your other extra deck boss monster exceeds as well. For some of the other higher number of Fire King cards, the 3 copies of Fire King High Avatar Kirin. During the main phase, if this card is in your hand, quick effect, you can destroy 1 other fire monster in your hand or face up on the field. If you do, special summon this card. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard, except for Fire King High Avatar Kirin. And then you can destroy 1 card on the field. You only use each effect of Kirin once per turn, but having the option of being able to special summon more Fire King monsters off of the destruction of Kirin, but also just being able to destroy another card in your hand or face up on the field to get out onto the field can also, once again, help to activate some other cards we may have and then get you the needed monsters for any of the other plays you want to go for. Also, 3 copies of Fire King Avatar Arvata. When a monster effect is activated while this monster is on the field, quick effect, you can negate the activation. If you do, destroy 1 other fire monster in your hand or face up field. If you do, and the card is destroyed, sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, Winged Beast monster in your graveyard except for Arvata and special summon it, but negate its effects. Also, during the end phase, you can only use each effect of Arvata once per turn. So with this card, you have a monster resource as well while this card's on the field to negate the activation and destroy another card, and then having an option for special summoning back resources thanks to Arvata from the graveyard as well. The last of the 3 ofs that we run for the Fire King monsters are 3 copies of Legendary Fire King Ponix. If your monster that was originally fire is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Fire King spell or trap from your deck to your hand. During the next standby phase after this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, add this card from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use each effect of Legendary Fire King Ponix once per turn, so you have search power off of this card, being able to add the many different Fire King spell and traps we run in the deck, and then also being able to just add this card back makes it one of your more vital normal summon cards, because then you just have that recycle power, and then along with that, other spells that can search out and set up the destruction of your other Fire King monsters. For some of the lower numbers for the Fire King support, the 1 copy of the new Fire King Avatar Rongbali. If a face-up Fire King monster is destroyed by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. And when a spell or trap or effect is activated while this card's on the field, you can negate the activation and destroy 1 other fire monster in your hand or face up on the field. So similar to Arvata, it has the negation plays. We also run the 1 Bearing for if a face-up monster is destroyed, being able to special summon this card from your hand when it's destroyed by a card effect. And once per turn during the standby phase after afterwards destroyed by a card effect, you can add one Fire King card from your deck to your hand. Being both Beast Warrior monsters, they're also viable tanky searches. That's why we're only running the one of copies of this cards for more of that search and setup with each one of them back to your hand for cards you may need. Since this is the Diabellstar lineup, we're also running the one copy of Diabellstar, the Black Witch. You can special summon this card from your hand by sending one card from your hand or field to the graveyard. You can only special summon Diabellstar once per turn this way. You can use each of the following effects of Diabellstar once per turn. If it's normal or special summon, you can set one Sinful Spoils spell or trap directly from your deck. And during your opponent's turn, if this card was sent from the owner's hand or field to the graveyard, you can send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon this card. So you want to run the one because we can use other cards in the deck like Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils to add the card from our graveyard back to our hand after we've used it, but also being able to search it from our deck with that initial effect as well. So you really only need the one copy to utilize in the deck for the search power of all of our other spells. And then also for the rest of the main deck monsters, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird for a good chunk of our hand trap lineup, just stopping the search power of our opponent after they add a card from their deck to their hand during the main phase with Droll and Lockbird, and then just the overall graveyard setup or hand search that you may try to do can be stopped with Ash Blossom. And then the final lineup for the hand traps being 2 copies of Nibiru, just for the fact that if you do tribute a good number of your monsters, it really doesn't, affect too many of your plays, because then you're just setting up other Fire Kings in your graveyard for you to reuse again. Moving on now to the spells, we run 3 copies of the new Fire King Sanctuary. When this card is activated, you can place one Fire King Island from your deck face up in your field zone once per turn. If a card in your field zone will be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy one fire monster in your hand or face up on the field instead. And once per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can immediately after this effect resolves, summon one fire monster using only Fire King monsters you control. You can activate one Fire King monster effect per turn, but when it's activated, you have the search for your Fire King Island, and then also being able to, once per turn, if a card in your field zone be destroyed, have the destruction of another fire monster, which can then just extend your own plays for your different Fire King cards as well. And then having the initial play to then also go immediately into your Xyz monsters off of when your other Fire King monsters may be special summoned, just gives you more reaction time to go into this extra deck monster, since there are plenty of ways to be able to special summon out 2 level 8 monsters at the same time with your big boss monsters in the main deck. Also, 2 copies of Fire King Island. If this face-up card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard or banished, destroy all monsters you control. You can only use one of the following effects of Fire King Island per turn, and only once that turn. During your main phase, you can destroy one monster in your hand to add one Fire King monster from your deck to your hand, so it also helps with some of the one-ofs that we run, being able to be searched off of a field spell that can also be searched and set up of one of our continuous spells. And if you control no monsters, you can special summon one Fire Wing Beast monster from your hand, giving you the play style of other boss monsters to be easily summoned from your hand onto the field as well. For the next lineup for the Sinful Spoil cards, I do want to run 3 copies of Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils. This is more of a pricey card, so if you only have like 1 copy, you can always replace it with original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye. If you don't have any copies, Triple Tactics Talent can just be a placeholder for this card, but it really takes away from the search power of Diabellstar, so you definitely do want to run this card in the deck. It just adds 1 Diabellstar monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target one of your Sinful Spoils spell or traps that is banished or in your graveyard except for Wanted Sinful Spoils, and place it on the bottom of the deck, giving you more search power because we are out of the deck running 1 additional copy of original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye to have that search and set up to use with our other level 1 fire monsters. Also, the 2 copies of Fire Formation Tenki to be able to search out our Beast Warrior monsters, including Arvada and the other one-ofs we were running in the deck. And for some other one-ofs for the spells, the 1 copy of Fire King Skyburn. Target an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls, destroy them. If a Fire King card you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead for protection, so you can only destroy them when you want to. The 1 copy of Circle of the Fire Kings, giving you an option to target a fire monster you control and 1 fire monster in your graveyard, destroy that monster and special summon the other one from the graveyard. And then the 1 copy of original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, sending 1 other face-up card you control to the graveyard to special summon the level 1 fire monster from your hand or deck, can give you access to cards like Legendary Fire King Ponix very easily to then gain that search power off of that card. And then also the 1 copy of Call by the Grave to finish off the spell lineup. And then for the traps, the only trap that we run in the deck is the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, along with the Ash Blossom and the Drone Lockbird into Nibiru lineup. Just a hand trap of choice to stop any of our opponent's plays if they go first against us, since it can just be easily activated from the hand. And moving on now to the extra deck, I run 2 copies of Garunix Eternity, Yang of the Fire Kings, needing 2 or more level 8 monsters. If this card's Exceed Summon, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. You can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 spell or trap card on the field, destroy it. If you do, this card gains 500 attack. If it's destroyed while it has material, you can special summon Fire King monsters from your graveyard up to the number of materials this card had. You can only use the effect of Garunix once per turn, but still you have the option to use multiple level 8s to then give you more resources if this card were to be destroyed with multiple materials. Having the option to destroy all other monsters on the field means that you can react pretty easily for this card to resolve for your Xyz plays when you just have Fire King Sanctuary on the field to then give you more of a reaction with your other monsters to your opponent's plays on their own turn, being able to overlay into this monster and then destroy all they have. Also, the 1 copy of number 38 as another additional level 8 monster to go into, the 1 Zeus and the 1 Sky Crisis for other overlays for some of our extra special summoned monsters. For the Link monsters, the 1 copy of Link Karibo, since our Ponix is a pretty often used level 1 monster, and you want to get into the graveyard as fast as you can, so if you don't have the destruction power, you at least have the Link's power in the form of Link Karibo, Almirage, and also Relinquish Anima as all level 1 options to go into. And for some of the Link 2 monsters, 1 Heat of the Fire Charmer Ablaze, 1 Dual Little Chimera, the 1 IP Masquerena, along with the 1 SP Little Knight, and the 1 Sunlight Wolf for more fire monster add back power thanks to this card, and then also the 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul and the 1 Access Code Talker. Now what's cool about the Decode Talker Heat Soul, it does need 2 fire or 2 Cybers monsters with different attributes, but you have the Sunlight Wolf and also the Link Karibo to then go into this card if you have the setup with your other monsters being able to make use of those cards as well. You can even use the Almirage comboed with the IP Masquerena to go into it as well, giving you a monster that's also protected from card effects. But as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I mentioned, the Fire King Sanctuary helps to set up a good amount of your plays, just being able to place Fire King Island from your deck. So it really can't be Ash Blossom since it doesn't search out the card, it just places it in your field zone, and then also having the protection by destroying another fire card from your hand or face up on the field instead. So then you have the Fire King Island of during your main phase to destroy a monster in your hand or field to add a Fire King monster from your deck to your hand. So then you have the initial option for the destruction of destroying 1 Fire King monster in your hand as well for the destruction play. So then you can go for just the destruction of 1 of your Fire King monsters for that play, for the destroy play, giving you then the adding of a Fire King monster. Then the Fire King Garunix can resolve special summoning out onto the field since it was from the hand, since even if not with the card text of the card, giving you that additional monster. And then also if the Arvada was destroyed, you can turn a Fire Beast, Wing Beast in your graveyard except for Arvada and special summon it. This is where the normal summon of your initial Fire King Ponix comes into play as well, because with Ponix it could be your initial normal summon to then search out the Fire King spell, starting off that initial play to begin with, then giving you that initial summon to add back onto the field. So then you had either the Link 1 play to go into Ponix, giving you a Link 1 monster on the field to begin with, depending on the one you want to go to. Then the destruction of Arvada can then grab the Ponix back from the graveyard as a special summon. You've already used the search for it, but it allowed you to get another initial monster to then extend your extra deck plays using these cards as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Like I said, this is the take using more of the Dia Bellstar lineup, which helps for more additional fire monsters to also be able to be special summoned out onto the field. Using that engine along with the Fire Kings, I will be making a budget version that you will just use cards from the structure deck, so look forward to that as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.